I couldn't get very far into these video devotionals that I'm doing during the sabbatical without turning towards Jesus' teaching, and specifically Jesus' teaching on the Sermon on the Mount. Now, of course, there's so much there. I can't do one video devotional on the whole Sermon on the Mount, but I want to start by reading the last verse of the Sermon on the Mount. So think with me about all the issues of life that Jesus spoke to during the Sermon on the Mount. The Beatitudes. He speaks to issues of anger, of worry, of lust, of greed, of revenge, of a world in which we have enemies and we're trying to figure out how to treat our enemies, about keeping our oaths, telling the truth, about judging others. He speaks to prayer. He speaks to so many of the key issues of life. And at the end of it, this is what we read. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching, because he taught as one who had authority and not as their teachers of the law. So it makes me ask the question, what does it mean that Jesus taught as one who had authority? So authority, the people who have authority are the people who know. Not just the people who believe something. They know something. They know it in their bones, right? So we know that we want to go to a mechanic that knows how to fix our car, or to a dentist who knows how to fix our cavity. We don't want to go to somebody who's lucky or guesses or believes that they can. We want them to know. And because they know, we submit to them. We submit to what they prescribe. They have authority over us. And so now we have to think together all that Jesus spoke to in the Sermon on the Mount. For him to have authority, and again, juxtaposed not as the teachers of the law. So there was lots of people commenting on the law, teaching what it says. They did not, in the eyes of the crowds that followed Jesus, have any authority. Compared to Jesus, their words were empty. Jesus gains authority, and he speaks to all those issues of life, and we have to ask this question: how did he have authority? Well, he had to embody it. He had to know it. For Jesus to speak to worry, he had to be a non-anxious presence. For Jesus to speak to anger and forgiveness and not taking revenge, he had to have that in his character. For Jesus to speak to not laying up treasures on earth, he had to demonstrate that his trust was in the Father. For Jesus to speak about judging others, not judging others, he himself had to be one who did not have a critical spirit to others. What I want to say to you is that Jesus is a model of goodness to us, a model of virtue, of brilliance, of moral excellence. And so when Jesus teaches us, we will do well to hear him, trust him, and obey him, because he knows. He's not just guessing. He doesn't just believe things. He knows. And that led to his life flourishing in the way it did, so that 2,000 years we are still talking about him and still trying to figure out how he lived his life. And the promise of Jesus is that we can be his students. We can apprentice ourselves to him and learn from him what he knew. This is basically the model of discipleship. We abide with Jesus. We turn to him. We hear him speak. We meditate on his words. We trust him. And then we do the things he says. And that over time, as we practice, we actually grow into habitual behavior that becomes part of our character, so that we can actually go back and teach others what we now know, not just believe. We become those who have a non-anxious presence, a non-judgmental spirit, who are people of peace, who do not lay up treasures on earth, but treasures in heaven. That becomes our legacy, because Jesus, our Master, has taught us. Let that be an encouragement to you today. Grace and peace.